Hello again. For those of you that have watched my video in Castlefield, Manchester, you may remember that I mentioned I was desperate to get my hands on a particular lens, namely the Laowa 6mm 0D ultra-wide-angle lens. At the time, I was using and had owned a 7.5mm Samyang manual focus lens for quite some time. And I am basically a wide-angle photographer. I like using wide-angle lenses more than telephoto. The Samyang 7.5 really did offer an awful lot of distortion, which is why I was keen to get my hands on the Laowa. Now, at that time, nobody in the UK had them in stock. So, and this is very unusual for me, I logged on to the B&H website. B&H had them in stock, and so I ordered one, and it was shipped to me and arrived about 7 to 10 days later. That's not the main point about this. I'll come on to that later. But here it is, the little Laowa 6mm f2 0D Dreamer ultra-wide-angle lens for micro four thirds. Tiny little lens, manual focus. Let's take a closer look at it. So here we are, the Laowa 6mm 0D ultra-wide-angle lens for micro four thirds. What can I say about it? Well, first and foremost, build quality. It's metal construction pretty much everywhere. I can't see any plastic on it, including the lens hood, which I'll come on to in a minute. It's manual focus, of course. The focusing ring is buttery smooth, really, really good, absolutely fantastic. The distance scale and apertures are etched into the metalwork, so they're not going to rub off very quickly, let's put it that way. It comes with a front and rear cap, pinch cap for the front. It takes 58mm screw-in filters, which is pretty standard size. Back cap reveals the lens mount, which is metal, of course. And the beauty of the latest version of this lens, which is the one that I've got, is the fact that it does have the electronic contacts, so it will communicate perfectly with your camera, whether it be, in my case, Olympus or Panasonic. Which means that I get EXIF data. My editing software will recognize the lens, and if there are corrections built into the editing program, it will recognize the lens and make corrections for things like vignetting and stuff like that. I don't often tend to use those. I tend to do things like that manually anyway, but it's nice to know that this is going to communicate with the camera, which means, of course, that it will be usable in program mode, aperture priority, shutter priority, as well as full manual. And in years to come, when you look back at your images, you'll be able to remember what lens it was taken on and what aperture, etc., which is always nice to know. Now, the lens hood. As I say, it takes 58mm screw-in filters, which is all well and good. If you just want to put a UV filter on there, you can do, no problem whatsoever. If you wanted to fit larger, say, professional size square filters from Lee or whoever it might be, then you're going to have to struggle and get the lens hood off. Now, I am reliably informed that it is removable, and when I hold it up to the light, I can see light coming in between the lens hood and the actual lens itself, but it is so darn tight, I really don't want to force it. But I am reliably informed it is removable. Because I don't use large square filters, it's going to stay on there. It gives good protection. If I do bang the lens against something, at least the front element's not going to get damaged. The front element itself is nicely domed, but it is well recessed, so there's not a lot of chance of getting it scratched and damaged accidentally. F2 maximum aperture. and it goes down to f16. It has a very, very close focusing facility. Now, with ultra-wide lenses like this, focusing really is a bit superfluous. But because this thing focuses so close, it's worth me pointing out that, just let me mount it onto my pen F. There we go. Just put it into shot so you can see it properly. So there it is on the pen F. Now, this will focus to 9 centimeters, but of course it's not 9 centimeters from the front of the lens. It's 9 centimeters from your sensor. And every camera has the position of the sensor marked on it. It looks a bit like a plimsoll line on a ship, sort of a leveling line, if you like, a circle with a line through it. That's where your sensor is, and that's where the focusing is measured from. So 9 centimeters from that point. I hope you're impressed with my use of props here, a bit like Blue Peter. 9 centimeters takes me to there, believe it or not. So I can focus literally on something that close to the front of the lens. In which case you are going to be a little bit, you need to be precise with your focusing at that sort of distance. Performance-wise, it's 13 elements in 9 groups. It has a 5-bladed diaphragm, which gives lovely 10-point sun stars. I'm really very impressed with the sun stars that I get from this lens, and hopefully I can put a couple in up in the video for you to have a look at. Is it sharp wide open? The answer is no, it's not. At f2 there is distinct fall off at the edges, but you know, I'm never going to use it at f2, to be perfectly honest with you. f4, 5.6, somewhere around there, I think is its sweet spot, as is the case with most lenses these days, and it's plenty sharp enough at that sort of aperture. I'm not a pixel peeper, but I do like my lenses to be reasonably sharp. This is plenty sharp enough for my requirements, thank you very much. It weighs a mere 121 grams, so if you do want to use it on a camera mounted gimbal, then it's not going to put any undue strain on your gimbal. And if you are brave enough to hang your micro four thirds camera beneath a drone, then again this lens is not going to tax it too much, as long as it's not a DJI Mini, because that might cause problems. All in all, really good lens, fantastic build quality, great performance. The Samyang 7.5 does give a wider angle of view, believe it or not, but with a great deal more distortion. With this one, it's more controllable. Yes, you do get a little bit of distortion even with this, and to be fair to Laowa, they don't claim it's completely distortion free, simply that it's very, very minimal, and that's true. So I'm going to put up some images for you to have a look at, and then I'll hand back to my colleague. Well, there we are. I think that's given you a pretty good rundown of the details of the lens. I have to emphasize its manual focus, and when I was giving you the close-ups of it, I did say that focusing with this lens is really a bit superfluous, simply because the depth of field is so vast, really. If you set this thing to f8, you can photograph anything really from 12 inches away to infinity. Close-up work slightly different. The Fascinating thing, as I said earlier on, nobody in the UK had them in stock, and as far as I can tell at the time of recording this video, they are still completely out of stock in the United Kingdom. They're like hen's teeth secondhand, so that's one of the main reasons why I bit the bullet and ordered it from B&H Photo. The surprising thing to me anyway was the fact that in the UK, when you can get hold of these, the rough retail price is around about £540. As I say, not a cheap lens. What surprised me was the fact that by the time I'd paid import duties and taxes from the USA to the UK, it cost me £486 and a few pennies. So, strangely enough, it was cheaper for me to buy it from B&H in the States, have it shipped over here, than it would have been for me to buy it from a UK supplier. Strange, but true. I'll put up some of the images that I've taken over the past few months with it. I'm very happy with it, thoroughly recommended. So, quite a brief little video. Do stay and have a look at the images that I'm going to put up now. But until the next time, enjoy your photography, and I will see you all very soon for another video. Bye for now.